So here he is, the rock of stability. Longtime political analyst and a friend of the show. He's Gary Dietrich, everyone. Hey, Gary, look at you. Got that holiday look.
Hey, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's holiday week.
He's coming in hot, John. Can you turn him down a little bit? Hang on one second, Gary.
Yeah,
we've got you. We just want to get you into a. Can you, Johnny? Do you have the ability?
Yeah,
to
I adjusted.
Okay, we've adjusted.
Hello. Yes, we have the obligatory, Thanksgiving semi-work, semi-on today.
Yeah, you're cutting in and out, but I hear what you're saying. It's kind of the you have semi-casual, is what you're saying.
Yeah, the white Estonians.
Why is he cutting out, John? Do you have
the physics of the internet?
Is that right? Well, I can't. I mean, can we do something about that?
We're trying here at
Mark Thompson Central.
Yeah, ground control.
Gary, I just want everybody to be able to hear you smoothly. So hang on a second.
My suggestion is call Elon. I think that's what you need to call Elon.
He sounds better there. Will that work? Are you good with it, Johnny?
Hello.
I think we're fine.
Okay, let's try. What a wild scene, Gary Dietrich. But so cool of you to join us on Thanksgiving week. So it seemed like over the weekend there was the Around the Horn, Face the Nation, Meet the Press, MSNBC, Fox News Channel tour being done by Pence. Of course, is pushing a book. Barr, I don't know what he's pushing, but he's joined also by Rod Rosenstein. I thought that was interesting. Sort of weighing in on this special prosecutor. I'd love to play you a little bit of these guys and kind of get your reaction to just kind of, and then I want to talk about the agenda of the new Congress. But can I play you a little bit of this, Gary, and get your thoughts? Here's
as long as Elon says it's okay. Yes, go right ahead.
We begin this morning with former Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein. He appointed Robert Mueller as special counsel for the investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 election and to determine if there were links between that country and former President Trump's campaign. And he joins us in studio. It is good to have you here in an extraordinary week.
Good morning. Glad to be here.
I want to get right to it. Due to the former president launching his campaign, the current president may also run for president. The Attorney General said it is absolutely necessary to have a special counsel oversee this investigation into the classified documents found at Mar-a-Lago and what happened with trying to change the outcome of the 2020 election. If you were in the old role you once had, would you have appointed a special counsel?
It's easy to second guess from outside the department. I don't know exactly what Merrick Garland knows, what information was available to him. He didn't say that he was required to appoint the special counsel. He said that he thought it was the right thing to do. I believed, under the circumstances that I faced, that the appointment of Robert Mueller was the right thing to do with regard to the Russia investigation. But I think in this case, Merrick Garland clearly made a discretionary decision. The department had been handling this itself for 2 years, could have continued to handle it itself, but he believed that this would help to promote public confidence. I think it remains to be seen whether that's the case.
So you wouldn't have done this yourself?
As I said, it's easy to second guess from outside. I think my inclination, given that the investigation has been going on for some time and given the stage which they've reached, is that I probably would not have, but I just can't tell from the outside.
It's interesting. The guy who did appoint Mueller feels as though you don't need a special counsel in this case. Gary, thoughts?
Well, yeah, Mark, I think there's a couple of very important layers to this. Number one, let's just start with the obvious. We have a now declared presidential candidate. We're 2 years away from less than 2 years now, believe it or not, right? Away from the presidential election. The DOJ, I think, number one, wanted to get out of the politics business, period. I mean, if you're conducting this investigation, at some point in time, you've got to release findings, you've got to release a decision, right? Which is either we're going to prosecute somebody like a Trump or others, or we're not. Either way, you're not going to win, right? I mean, if you prosecute Trump, that half of the aisle is going to be really ticked off. If you don't, that half of the aisle is going to be really ticked off, right? And I think, frankly, with all the aspersions that have been cast towards the DOJ and the FBI, I honestly believe they're eager to get out out of the public spotlight. That's number one. Number two, what Rosenstein's pointed, and he made it very subtly, but I think this is really important. These investigations have been going on internally in the DOJ for 2 years. If you bring on a special counsel, remember what that means. Their own staff, their own investigators, their own attorneys. It basically, almost, Mark, you're starting over in one sense. And I think that was Rosenstein's point. It's like, look, you're already this far down the road. If you're going to do something, if a shoe's ready to drop, let it drop. Otherwise, I'm not sure about restarting the clock on the whole thing.
Well, I completely agree with you, and yet I've read chapter and verse over the weekend on both why it was a mistake, and I've also read chapter and verse on how, well, he'll actually use the existing investigation, much of the evidence that's been revealed. It's not as though he really has to start from... The guy's not even in the country, okay? This guy Smith was, he was arguing cases in front of The Hague. So the idea somehow, I'm really like, guys, this stall tactic of Trump, it seems to be you're aiding and abetting that. But again, I've also seen legal breakdowns, Gary, as to why, regardless, there's going to be a delay of one sort or another putting this case together. The thing that I think is most compelling is that, and I think it's just revealed in all of these different layers, as you call them, I think that and I would ask you, the reluctance to charge a former president is manifest. Here's a guy who he does everything but autograph his crimes. I mean, you've got him on tape. You've got video of the documents being moved. Because I understand we're concentrating on the document case in this particular instance, as well as January 6th, and yet still no indictment. I get it. They're political reasons, blah, blah, blah. But now a special counsel, it just seems as though they want to kick the can down the road on prosecuting a former president.
Yeah, and that is another one of the layers, Mark. And you're absolutely right, by the way, to back up a second. What a surprise, huh? There's legal opinions on both sides of this. That's the nature of the beast these days, right? That is the nature of American jurisprudence and American politics. But let's also just remind ourselves of this, that do you want to be the first attorney general to charge a president, right? To indict a president? I think there's a lot of genuine, honest concern inside the legal community. How many more tripwires do we want to cross here? I mean, what happens if, the random if, what happens if a Joe Biden gets reelected and somebody decides, you know what? All these Republican investigations have gone on in the House controlled by McCarthy for the last 4 years. Look at all the dirt that have dug up. Maybe we need a special prosecutor. Maybe there needs to be charges related to Hunter Biden, blah, 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 blah. I mean, you can just see where this could go. And I think that's why the reluctance is there and why the process is moving at what many people say is an absolute snail's pace. It's just that we're crossing Rubicons now that nobody envisioned would be crossed.
Well, to which I would say this. Look, speaking of crossing Rubicons, that, there's never been anything like this. As we always run the...
There's never been anything like this.
Yeah, right. There's never been anything like an attempted coup by a president. I mean, you have, a trail of breadcrumbs that's pretty strong. And the unprecedented nature of the last administration, I think, dictates unprecedented reaction, and much of it is from the legal levers because so much of it was illegal. Here's Bill Barr from over the weekend with PBS.
He failed. He didn't do what the whole country hoped, which that he would rise to the occasion and rise to the office, and he didn't do that. So he's had his chance. He obviously does not have the qualities necessary to unite the party, which is the first step on the road back. And he should stand aside. If the Department of Justice can show that these were indeed very sensitive documents, which I think they probably were, and also show that the president consciously was involved in misleading the department, deceiving the government, and playing games after he had received the subpoena for the documents, those are serious.
That's a serious.
That's serious.
That's a serious.
Well, I said that I personally think that they probably have the basis for legitimately indicting the president. I don't know. I'm speculating.
You're speculating, yeah.
But given what's gone on, I think they probably have the evidence that would check the box. They have the case.
And if they have it, Should they?
That's a decision for.
If you were AG, would you?
I'm not going to get into that.
Do you think they will?
I think it's becoming increasingly more likely.
And you think it would be appropriate if they did?
Well, this is what the Attorney General gets paid, these kinds of decisions. You know, the argument for doing it is that if you let someone like this, who, you know, if the facts are as raw as they may be, and you let someone get away with it, how can you protect these secrets? How can you insist on people in government taking this stuff seriously? So, you know, that's an important thing to weigh, as well as what what it will do to the country and to the office of the presidency.
So you see, that last part is what you're talking about, you know, that the Rubicon part, which is what will it do to the country, what will it do to the office of the presidency. But if you follow that logic, you'll never prosecute. I mean, this guy, as I say, he's a, you know, all the dumpster fire, wrecking ball, you know, bull in a china shop, whatever you want. I mean, the guy, at some point, don't you have to draw the line and go, no. This country stands for things beyond just, you know, the flag and wrapping yourself in it.
Well, you know, Mark, if you notice what Barr focused on, I thought it was exceptionally interesting. There was not a single mention of January 6th, of elections. It was all about the documents at Mar-a-Lago. And I really think that that is the key here, because I really think, in a way, the January 6th has been adjudicated in the public realm. People have made up their decisions, and there are prosecutions even now going on with those who actually, of course, entered the Capitol building. So that process is underway. I think in many ways, in Barr's mind, more damning and more concerning in its own way is a president taking top secret documents potentially and saying that they're not there, or we don't have them, that they weren't really secret. I think that's his larger concern. If you notice what he said is almost, you have to make an example. You can't have people in government getting away with this, which is sort of the larger point. In other words, a mid-level manager in any given governmental department in Washington is unlikely to have anywhere near the capacity to start an insurrection at the Capitol. They could, however, take away a lot of sensitive documents, right? And take them home, or distribute them in some fashion. And I think that's what Barr, you can tell, that's what he's really zeroed in on, is, look, we have to control the flow of sensitive, classified, you know, U.S. government information. That is what clearly he right now is fixated on.
I think of Scooter Libby and the revealing the they're saying adjudicated as a ding word. Okay, all right. The Scooter Libby under Cheney, who revealed the identity of Valerie Plame, that was pretty big, you know. And by the way, Libby was charged and pleaded it down, which is, I think, one of the things I've read about might happen with Trump, that they'll say, "Hey, dude, we got no choice here, but you know, we'll let you go if you plead to this. But if he pleads to it, he won't be able to run for president." Is that right, Kerry? If he's guilty of a felony?
Yeah, I don't think we're going to get to that place, Mark. Here's the thing. Let's just walk this out real quick. You appoint a special prosecutor, comes back from The Hague or wherever he is, in, you know, vacationing, and just joking there. And now he puts his team together, and now he investigates.
But by the way, I know you're kidding, but it really won't get started until after the Christmas holidays and all of that stuff.
Right.
So yeah.
That's
anyway,
right.
go ahead.
And then think about the sources of information you mentioned. Okay, so what is he going to do? He's going to take the January 6th committee information and work from that. People, you know, half the country believes that's illegitimate and tainted. So you've got that, you know, tranche, as they love that word in Washington these days, of information. They've got the same in the DOJ, and then you've got a whole separate potential set of information. Got to wade through all that. Here's my point. You could easily see nothing being decided till well into 2024. And now we're right in the middle of a presidential campaign, and that's where I think the bar gets raised so exceptionally high. I mean, let's just say Trump survives, makes it through the Republican nominating process, and now he's the nominee. Now you're literally going to take one of the two major party candidates out of the race by indicting him and maybe convicting him. I just think that is going to be a really tough mountain for them to climb. So in any event, I think more interesting is what you're kind of getting at, Mark, and that is will there be a lower level fall guy? Will there be, well, listen, it wasn't President Trump who actually took the documents out of the White House. It was an aide and it was this senior, assistant. They were the ones that packed that stuff into boxes, knew it was going into boxes, and carted it down to Mar-a-Lago. And I could see, Mark, someone like that taking the fall, or at least being the first one to take the fall.
That makes total sense because the politics almost dictate that has to be the course. And then
somebody would pay a price, right? I mean, to your point, you'd have a Scooter Libby type figure. Listen, you can't get away with this. I don't want anybody thinking going forward. You just load up boxes, throw them in the U-Haul, and woohoo, we're all down, taken off to the presidential library or whatever. So that's, I think there's going to be an example made. The chances of it being a former or sitting president, again, that's probably not as likely.
We'll see if the Democrats play as, rather the Republicans play as hands off with the Biden administration now that they're in control of those committees. I mean, they won't be able to shove stuff over to the Justice Department with, quite the aggressiveness that they would when, Trump was in charge. But they may very well be able to pursue their own jihad now that they're in charge. Gary, love that you come spend time with us. Thank you for your support. Love your mind. We have Mark merch on the way to you, as you know, and
cannot wait for it, my friend.
Happy Thanksgiving, and thanks again, Gary Dietrich. Everybody, come on for Gary Dietrich.